Today I'm going to be looking at Ferrari, the 2023 film starring Adam Driver and Penelope Cruz and directed by a certain Michael Mann. Now, Michael Mann has done quite a few great films. These are probably two of the best, but he's done plenty of others. But he's also done a lot of production, been the producer on a lot of films, and he was executive producer on Le Mans 66, which in other markets is known as Ford versus Ferrari. So I think this is a good accompaniment to Ferrari. I do think Le Mans 66 is the better of the two films, but it's a different type of film. This is more of an adventure. This is perhaps more of a drama, but has got some excellent racing sequences in it. So the two of them together, different types of films, but probably would make a good double bill. Ferrari is more of a drama than a racing film, but there are plenty of racing sequences in it, and all the way through you're aware that that's what this is about. But it's more about Ferrari's private life and the machinations that went on in his life in 1957 and the near bankruptcy of the company that he and his wife, played by Penelope Cruz, had set up and were struggling to keep afloat. It all came down to they had to win the Mille Miglia that year, 1957, and as it turned out, this was the last year of the Mille Miglia, and you find out why towards the end of this film, which it's reaching the climax, and we see the Mille Miglia of 57 recreated. Can be quite horrifying, so be prepared. It was the year of a major crash that brought about the end of the Mille Miglia, which was a 1,000-mile race across Italy on open roads. By then, the cars were capable of in excess of 150 miles an hour, and the crash that Di Portago had in one of the Ferraris, that was estimated to be at an excess of 130 miles an hour. So went off the road, ended up in the air, and unfortunately went through a crowd of people. 9 spectators were killed, and I think 2 of the children out of the 4, I think it was a brother and a sister at ages 6 and 9. So this brought an end to the Mille Miglia, and there was such outrage in Italy. They tried to put Ferrari behind bars, and there was a trial that I think went on for almost 4 years before Ferrari convinced the judge that it should be auto engineers giving the evidence, whereupon they were able to say it was the tyre, it wasn't the car. But anyway, that's what the basis of this story is. Even though it's mainly that drama, to me it's the racing, and when it goes into the racing, particularly on the open roads, it really is quite spectacular, beautifully filmed. And the reds of the Maseratis and the Ferraris, they do look beautiful. Some of the indoor shots don't look as good, and I had to put the HDR on mine up to 75% to compromise. The outdoor shots, some of them were too blown out. The indoor shots, they weren't quite bright enough and looked a bit contrasty, a bit wishy-washy and grey or brown in places. But try it on your system. I think you'll be impressed, because this was filmed entirely digital video up to 8.2K. I don't know what all the other formats were, but it looks like it was entirely digital video, and so this is a true 4K disc. The sound is Dolby Atmos, and I've got THX51 in here. Because most of it's a drama, it's not that important, but when the racing comes in, and in here we could feel the cars going past us, so sensational in that regard. But I have to say, the sound is more impressive on Le Mans 66, but it's more of an adventure, so a bit more subtle in this, but still very impressive. The aspect ratio is approximately 2.40 to 1, and for the most part this fills the screen beautifully, and particularly those racing shots, some of them just really well worked out the way they did it. It had an estimated budget of $110 million, but only took at the worldwide box office $42 million. However, it does say it's a Sky original, so perhaps they were predominantly aiming at the streaming market on Sky, so maybe that's the main market for this and that was what they were aiming for. It has a running time of 2 hours and 10 minutes, and that 2 hours and 10 minutes does seem to shoot past for me. I suppose, being a bit of a car fan, this one sort of aimed at me, so if you rather like cars, I dare say this would be recommended for anyone with that sort of interest, but otherwise maybe this one might be a bit hit and miss for you. But very good image quality, I think, great sound, so everything you would possibly want in a 4K. There is just the 4K though, no Blu-ray, so I can't tell you how this compares against the Blu-ray. But within the extras, which are all 2.40 to 1, just like the feature, so that's rather nice. You don't have to play about with the masking to adjust it to suit. But in the extras, there are plenty of scenes from the movie in HD, and it looks impressive in high definition, so the Blu-ray is going to be very good. And it was watching the extras, I thought, bits of this seem to look better than they do on the 4K. And so I went back and I played some more, fiddled with the settings for the 4K and got that tip-top as best as I could get it, and made the image quality look as good as it should from the start. But mainly that was turning the HDR up, and initially I put it on full, but as I said, some of it was then too blown out, and the indoor settings were still not perfect on full, but they were much better. But I found the best compromise, because the outdoor scenes are the best, was on 75%, then you could see all the detail in the clouds and all the bright areas. But within the dark areas and the indoor shots, the dimly lit indoor shots, it was still just about good enough, and you wouldn't really notice unless you were doing a review for a YouTube channel. So overall, this was good value, even though it's £25. And I say it's good value because for me, the film was so good and the picture quality and the sound was so good. So I think if you're into cars like I am, then this is the one for you. Maybe if you've just got a passing interest in cars, you'll enjoy seeing all the 1950s, great looking Ferraris, Alfa Romeos, Maseratis. In fact, there's a few Jaguars in here. I think I spotted a D-type Jaguar just in front of one of the Maseratis or Ferraris at the start, which they show starting at night, and I think the actual race started during the day, so maybe a bit of artistic license there. But overall, a true story, well acted, and if you wonder where the name Ferrari Dino comes from, you find out at the start of this, because the Ferraris a year before or 2 years before have just lost their son, and he died I think at the age of 24. His name was Dino, so there we are. So quite a poignant film for me, having loved Ferrari cars, Lamborghinis, Maseratis, Lotus, Triumph, MG, just about all the great marques, and then we get a film which is really a biography, but has got better racing action than you could have seen if you were standing by the roadside. So in that regard, it's recommended. Well, I think that's everything about it. Just a short review of this one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. Perhaps consider subscribing, so I'll be encouraged to carry on creating nonsense like this in the future. Until the next one, bye bye for now.